Alright, so what I've done for today's video is I've taken every team's best player and I've demoted them down to their AHL affiliate, meaning that every single AHL team is either going to have a superstar or an all-star on their team to carry them, and we are going to simulate and see who dominates the most in the AHL. Will it be Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews, Sidney Crosby, Nathan MacKinnon? I don't have those answers, but we are definitely going to find out. So pretty much I've taken every team's best player and just plotted them down to the AHL, like Connor McDavid, Elias Pettersson was down there, Brady Tkachuk, so every single AHL team is going to have an all-star on their team or a superstar. Regardless, they're going to have a very good player that is going to carry them along the way throughout the course of a season, and we are going to simulate along and see who wins the Stanley Cup year after year in the AHL. If you guys enjoy videos like this, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. I post pretty much every second day. Alright, now let's get into the video. At the end of year number 1, the Ice Hogs are actually going to end up finishing first in the AHL, going 44-19 and 9, followed by the Admirals, who had 42 wins. San Jose had 42, Providence had 42, Hershey had 42, the Toronto Marlies were up there, the Penguins, the Monsters, the Eagles, the Condors. At the bottom of the AHL, we have the Calgary Wranglers, the Grand Rapids Griffins, the Comets, the Silver Knights, the Americans. No surprise here, as Connor McDavid is going to lead the AHL in points with 107, followed by Austin Matthews 105, Alex Ovechkin 96, David Pastrnak 94, Jason Robertson 94, Sidney Crosby 93, the GOAT Nathan MacKinnon had 88, Panarin 88, Carlson 85. I gotta be honest, the point totals here are kind of low, especially for being in the AHL. I mean, I realize we play like 10 less games, but 107 points is actually gonna lead the AHL. These are NHL superstars, the best of the best. They should be absolutely dominating. For goals, Austin Matthews is gonna have the most at 65, followed by McDavid 54, Ovi 48, Pastrnak 47, MacKinnon 47, Jason Robertson 45, Sidney Crosby 42, Brady Tkachuk 40, and Madden 37. Tyler Madden, he is a 74 overall, a legit AHL player, 37 goals and 57 points in 72 games. Shout out to him. For defensemen, Erik Karlsson is going to have the most points at 85, followed by Drew Doughty's 81, Roman Josi 80, Vince Dunn 69, Seth Jones had 63, Pietrangelo had 60, Smith had 60, Ty Smith. For goalies, Calvin Pickard is actually going to have the most wins at 37, followed by Peterson's 32, Soderbaum 31, Askarov 30, Kincaid had 30, Ilya Sorokin only had 29 wins. I mean, maybe his team wasn't very good. For shutouts, Dylan Wells and Vasi are going to tie for the most at 6, followed by Pickard's 5, Poulin had 5, Peterson 5, Andrei Vasilevsky would have a 9.24 save percentage and a 216 goals against average. That is actually pretty good, but I mean, I kind of expected a little more since he is in the AHL. And this is our year 1 playoff matchups in the AHL. Who is going to go on and win the Stanley Cup? And in the Calder Cup finals, we have the Bakersfield Condors versus the Cleveland Monsters. I believe that's Connor McDavid versus, I gotta be honest, I have no idea. But regardless, who is going to go on and take home not the Stanley Cup, but the Calder Cup in year number 1? And the Bakersfield Condors are going to go on and win the Calder Cup after beating the Cleveland Monsters in 6 games. Connor McDavid is going to get his first AHL Cup or Calder Cup of his career. It's not the Stanley Cup, but I guess it'll have to do for now. And there it is. Wait a minute. What's going on here? Why are we getting presented the Stanley Cup? We're an AHL team. What is going on here? And here comes the assistant captain of the Condors coming to lift, I guess, the Stanley Cup for the very first time in his career. And obviously the first time in franchise history, considering this team is an AHL team, not an NHL team, but I guess that's the way she goes. And there he is, Connor McDavid, lifting the Stanley Cup for the very first time in his career as a Bakersfield Condor, not an Edmonton Oiler. I know it's weird, but hats off to the Condors as they are Stanley Cup champions in year number 1. For the playoffs, Connor McDavid is going to absolutely dominate, 19 goals and 37 points in 23 games, followed by Johnny Hockey's 25, Sean Couturier 23, Ovi 21, Jason Robertson 21, Savoie had 19, Brink had 19, Benson 18. For goals other than McDavid, it was Ovi who had 14, Robertson 11, and Johnny Gaudreau 11. Connor McDavid is going to take home the Art Ross and the Hart Trophy. I guess the Maurice Richard is the William Marshall Award. That is going to go to Matthews. Erik Karlsson is going to win the Norris Trophy. Vasi is going to win the Vezina. Connor McDavid is going to win the Conn Smythe or the Jack A. Butterfield Trophy. I can't. There is no way that's the actual name for this trophy. At the end of year number 2, the Texas Stars are going to end up finishing first in the AHL, going 49, 20, and 3, followed by the Condors, the Thunderbirds, the Bruins, the Bears, the Wolves. San Diego was up there, the Comets, the Toronto Marlies. At the bottom of the AHL, yet again, we have the Grand Rapids Griffins, the Calgary Wranglers, the Iowa Wild. San Jose was down there, the Penguins as well. David Pastrnak is going to lead the entire AHL in points with 101, followed by Jason Robertson's 99, Austin Matthews 96, Nathan McKinnon 96, McDavid 93, Tage Thompson had 90, Jordan Kyrou 87, Roman Josi 85, Breadman 83. For goals, Matthews yet again had the most at 57, followed by the GOAT McKinnon had 54, McDavid had 52, Jason Robertson had 50, Pasta 45, Ovi 45, Thompson 85, Kaprizov 42. For defensemen, Roman Josi is going to have the most points at 85, followed by Drew Doughty's 80, Alex Pietrangelo had 79, Erik Karlsson 66, Vince Dunn was up there with 62, Seth Jones had 60. For goals, Pietrangelo is going to have the most as a defenseman with 23. Calvin Pickard is yet again going to have the most wins by a goalie, this time with 36, followed by Kochekov, who had 34, Dylan Wells had 33, Kincaid 30, Schmidt 30, Hofer had 29, Martin 28, Andrei Vasilevsky had 28. For the most shutouts, Schmidt and Kochekov are going to be tied at 6. I know I'm absolutely butchering this guy's name. Primo would have 5, Calvin Pickard 5, Sorokin 4, Wall 4. And this is what our playoff matchups look like in year number 2. And in the Calder Cup Finals, yet again, the Bakersfield Condors are going to make it, but this time they're going to play the Hershey Bears. So we have Connor McDavid versus Alex Ovechkin, who is going to take home the Calder Cup in year number 2. Alex Ovechkin and the Hershey Bears are going to go on to win the Calder Cup as they beat the Condors and Connor McDavid in the Calder Cup Finals, I believe in 5 games. Alex Ovechkin went absolutely insane in the finals. He had like 13 points and 7 goals, something crazy like that. And Alex Ovechkin is going to capture a Calder Cup trophy to his hardware case. Alex Ovechkin is obviously going to be your Conn Smythe winner. He was absolutely insane in the finals. This is very well deserved. And here's the captain for the Hershey Bears coming to collect, I guess, the Stanley Cup. I don't know why there's not a Calder Cup trophy here, but regardless, the Hershey Bears have won it in year number 2. Where's Ovi, baby? We got to get him the cup. And there he is, Alex Ovechkin, lifting the Stanley Cup / Calder Cup for the first time in his career. Regardless, he's going to get another ring as the Hershey Bears win the Stanley Cup or Calder Cup. I'm so confused at this point. For the playoffs, Ovechkin's going to have the most goals at 19 and the most points at 38, followed by Connor McDavid's 31. Garbosa would have 28, Frank 23, Benson 22, Tage Thompson had 21, Savoie had 21. For goals, other than Ovi, it was McDavid who had 14, Bosa had 9, Malone 9, McMichael 8, Tage Thompson 8, so not a lot of goal scoring going on here. The goalies, Clay Stevenson is obviously going to have the most wins, but what about shutouts here? Let's take a look. Malcolm Subban is going to have the most shutouts for the playoffs at 3, followed by Askarof's 2, Calvin Pickard had 2, Domingue 1, Wells had 1. David Pastrnak is going to take home the Art Ross and the Hart Trophy. Austin Matthews is yet again going to take home the Maurice Richard. Roman Josi is going to win the Best Defenseman Award, aka the Norris or the Eddie Shore Award. And the Conn Smythe obviously is going to go to the Great 8, Alex Ovechkin, the Jack A. Butterfield Trophy. It gets me every time. At the end of year number 3, the Springfield Thunderbirds are going to end up finishing first in the AHL, going 45, 20, and 7, followed by the Syracuse Crunch, the Bakersfield Condors, the Rochester Americans, the Chicago Wolves. The Stars were up here, Colorado, Hershey, Toronto. At the bottom of the AHL, we have the Iowa Wild, the Henderson Silver Knights, the Charlotte Checkers, Abbotsford Canucks. The GOAT, Nathan McKinnon, is going to lead the AHL in points with 108, followed by Austin Matthews, who had 107. Connor McDavid and David Pastrnak would each have 100 apiece. Alex Ovechkin had 97, Sidney Crosby 94, Jason Robertson would have 93, Panarin 92, Tage Thompson 84. For goals, Connor McDavid is going to have the most at 63, followed by the GOAT McKinnon, who had 60, Austin Matthews had 56, Pasta 54, Ovi 53, Jason Robertson at 48, Crosby 43, Panarin 43, and Tage Thompson 37. For defenseman, Drew Doughty is going to have the most points at 79, followed by Erik Karlsson 76, Roman Josi 73, Vince Dunn 70, Seth Jones 67. Calvin Pickard yet again is going to have the most wins by any goalie, this time with 38, followed by Malcolm Subban, who had 36, Vasi had 33, Dreger had 33, Hofer 30, Kochekov 30, Wall 29, Kincaid 29. For shutouts, Connor Hellebuck's going to have the most at 9, followed by Pickard's 8, Askarov would have 7, Dylan Wells 6, and Tendek. David Tendek would have 5. And here's what the year 3 playoff matchups look like. And in the Calder Cup finals, we have the Texas Stars versus the Syracuse Crunch, who is going to go on and win the Calder Cup in year number 3. Jason Robertson and the Texas Stars are going to go on and win the Calder Cup as they beat Vasi and the Crunch in Game 7 of the finals. Jason Robertson is going to capture his first Stanley Cup or Calder Cup of his career, but I mean Vasi would put up an amazing effort. Jason Robertson is obviously going to take home the Conn Smythe for the Texas Stars. He was absolutely insane, as he should be. He's an NHL superstar playing in the AHL. And here comes the captain for the Texas Stars, number 16, coming to lift the Calder Cup for the first time in his career, I presume. But regardless, the Texas Stars have won the Calder Cup in year number 3. Let's get that Stanley Cup, Calder Cup, whatever it is, pass it off to Jason Robertson already. And there he is, Jason Robertson, Robo baby, Robo cock, lifting the Stanley Cup for the very first time in his NHL or AHL career. For the playoffs, Jason Robertson is going to have the most goals at 17 and the most points at 31, followed by Jordan Kyrous 24, Will Butcher had 22, Blumel had 21, Ferk 17. I will never forget, one of my good buddies said Martin Ferk was going to be a superstar in the NHL way back when he got drafted in 2012. This Reedy had 17, Matthews 16, Panarin was up there with 15. For goals other than Robo, it was Turner Elson who had 10, Ferk had 9, Matthews 9, Bork 9, Barber 8, Elements 6. Nathan McKinnon is going to take home the Art Ross and the Hart Trophy. Connor McDavid is going to take home the Maurice Richard. Drew Doughty is going to win the Norris. The Conn Smythe, obviously, to Robo. At the end of year number 4, the Bakersfield Condors are going to finish first in the AHL, going 45, 20, and 7, followed by the Providence Bruins, the Toronto Marlies, the Hershey Bears, the Texas Stars, the Ontario Reign, the Silver Knights. At the bottom of the AHL, yet again, we have Calgary. The Senators were down there, the Crunch, the Roadrunners, that is Arizona's AHL affiliate. The Comets were down there, the San Diego Gulls. But man, the Syracuse Crunch, after making the Calder Cup finals the very next season, are going to finish third last in the AHL. Well, we already know Alex Ovechkin had the most goals and points in the entire NHL with 70 and 116. He's going to go absolutely insane. That is by far the best season so far. Followed by Connor McDavid's 111, David Pasternak 101, Nathan McKinnon 97, Austin Matthews 94, Roman Josi had 92, Elias Pettersson 89, Tage Thompson 86, and Jason Robertson 84. For goals other than Ovi, it was Pasta who had 58, Matthews 58, McDavid 56, McKinnon 49, Pettersson 44, Panarin and Robertson would each have 43, and Johnny Hockey would have 42. For defensemen, Roman Josi's going to have the most goals at 21 and the most points at 92, followed by Drew Doughty's 82, Karlsson 80, Pietrangelo 73, Smith at 65, Vince Dunn 64, Seth Jones was up there with 60, Yuri Patera is going to have the most wins by a goalie at 32. Actually, he was tied with Calvin Pickard. Man, Calvin Pickard is the GOAT of AHL goalies. This dude leads the NHL in wins. I mean, technically, he does have Connor McDavid on his team, so. Followed by Stevenson's 30, Wallstedt also had 30, Wall would have 28, Askarov at 27. For shutouts, it was a four-way tie between Gillies, Tokarski, Peterson, and Wallstedt. They would each have 6 apiece. Louis Domingue would have 5, Hofer 5, Wells 4, Joseph Wall had 4. And in the Calder Cup finals, we have the Bakersfield Condors versus the Toronto Marlies, meaning that we have Connor McDavid versus Austin Matthews, a classic matchup. Who is going to go on and take home the Calder Cup in year number 4? Connor McDavid and the Bakersfield Condors are going to go on and win their second Stanley Cup of the simulation as they beat Austin Matthews and the Toronto Marlies in the Calder Cup finals, I believe in 5 games. It was an absolutely one-sided affair. Connor McDavid and the Bakersfield Condors were just too much for Austin Matthews and the Marlies. Connor McDavid is going to take home the Conn Smythe for the Bakersfield Condors. No surprise here. He's the best player of all time. Well, the most talented player of all time. You know what I mean. And here comes the assistant captain for the Condors, number 39, coming to lift the Calder Cup for the second time of the simulation. The Bakersfield Condors are now 2-time Calder Cup champions. And Mr. Connor McDavid here is a 2-time Calder Cup champion as well. His second ring of his career. He got none with Edmonton, but now he has 2. For the playoffs, Connor McDavid is going to have 21 goals and 30 points in 23 games, followed by Austin Matthews, 28. He also had 17 goals. Benson had 23. Robo had 22. Corral had 20. Johnny Hockey had 18. Pietrangelo 18. Dylan Holloway 18. And Clifford 18. For goals, obviously it was McDavid number 1 and then Matthews number 2. Jason Robertson would come in third with 10 goals. Johnny Hockey had 9. Alexander Ovechkin is going to take home the Art Ross, the Hart Trophy, and the Maurice Richard Trophy. Roman Josi is going to win the best defenseman in the AHL. The Conn Smythe, obviously, to Connor McDavid. At the end of year number 5, the Bakersfield Condors are going to end up finishing first in the AHL, going 47, 21, and 4, followed by the Texas Stars, who had 43 wins. The Marlies have 42. Americans have 41. The Islanders were up there. The Hershey Bears had 40 wins. Manitoba Moose had 41. At the bottom of the AHL, we have the Charlotte Checkers, the Silver Knights, the Roadrunners, the Laval Rockets, the Canucks. David Pastrnak is going to have the most goals at 68 and the most points at 113, followed by the GOAT Nathan MacKinnon's 112, Connor McDavid 108, Austin Matthews 106, Ovi had 104, Sidney Crosby had 97, Panarin had 92, Couturier 90, and Johnny Hockey would have 89. For goals, other than Pasta, it was the GOAT Nathan MacKinnon who had 64, Austin Matthews had 63, Alex Ovechkin 61, McDavid had 50, Crosby 48, Ederson would have 44, Goodrow 43, and Breadman would have 42. For defensemen, Drew Doughty's going to have the most goals at 20 and the most points at 80, followed by Vince Dunn 69, Seth Jones had 66, Roman Josi 65, Erik Karlsson 62, Honka had 60, Askarov would have the most wins by any goalie. Actually, he was tied. Him and Connor Hellebuck would each have 31 apiece, followed by Louis Domingue, who had 29, Malcolm Subban 29, Wall 28, Pickard 28, Tokarski 27. For shutouts, Askarov's going to have the most at 8, followed by Hofer 7, Dell 6, Pedersen 6, Martin had 5, Wall 5. And this is the playoff matchups in year number 5. And in the finals, yet again, we have the Bakersfield Condors. They've made it now for a 3rd time, I believe, in the simulation, and they are up against the Rochester Americans. Who is going to go home with the Calder Cup in year number 5? Connor McDavid and the Bakersfield Condors are going to go back-to-back as they are yet again Calder Cup champions. This is their 3rd time winning it in the simulation so far. Connor McDavid is a 3-time Calder Cup champ. I mean, I guess maybe it was a little unfair to put Connor McDavid down here, but he is the best player in the world for a damn reason. And yet again, Connor McDavid is going to take home the Conn Smythe for the Bakersfield Condors. He would absolutely light the lamp in the Calder Cup finals. And yet again, here comes the assistant captain, number 39, for the 3rd time coming to lift the Calder Cup, Stanley Cup, Calder Cup. I don't know what's going on with EA Sports and why the Stanley Cup is popping up here, but regardless, the Bakersfield Condors are 3-time Calder Cup champions. And there he is, Mr. Connor McDavid, baby, the best player in the entire game. He threw him down in the AHL and he absolutely dominated, winning 3 Calder Cup trophies. Connor McDavid is going to have the most goals at 15 and the most points at 27 in the entire playoffs. All the way Alex Ovechkin's 22, Tage Thompson had 21, Benson 20, Nathan MacKinnon would have 18, Jason Robertson 17, Murray 16. For goals other than McDavid, it was Nathan MacKinnon who had 14, Alex Ovechkin had 14, and Jason Robertson would have 11. David Pastrnak is going to take home the Art Ross and the Maurice Richard, while the GOAT Nathan MacKinnon is going to take home the Hart Trophy. Drew Doughty is going to win the Norris, and Askarov is going to take home the Vezina. And that is going to do it for this video, boys. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. I post pretty much every second day. I guess it was kind of unfair putting Connor McDavid in the AHL, considering he's the best player in the entire world, and he's just so dominant that he would just dominate the entire simulation. But still, this was a very fun video to make. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, don't be silly. Wrap your willy.